Yo, what's going on, Swaz Nation? SuozziVille here, and welcome to a brand new series on the channel. I didn't let you know about this series in advance because I wasn't really sure how it was going to work yet. Believe me, I had such a hard time the last few weeks waiting for stuff to install and getting used to new software, including Adobe Creative Cloud, which is actually what allowed me to make this video possible. Today we're going to be talking about The Great Gatsby because I do a project for school on this book, and I thought, why not tackle two birds with one stone? So today, I'm going to describe to you what goes down in this book in a nutshell. This video wasn't easy for me to make, so if you haven't already, please subscribe. And also, if you know anyone who's reading this book and is having trouble understanding it, or anyone who you just think would find this video funny, please share it for them. I'd really appreciate it. They'd really appreciate it. You'd feel really good for doing it. It's a win-win-win situation. It can't get better than that. Except for with a win-win-win-win situation. Alright, enough talking, let's just hop right into it. So, in a nutshell, Nick Carraway moves from the Midwest to a Long Island community called Westlake, close by where his cousin Daisy and her husband Tom live, to start a bond business. He pulls up to their place where he meets Tom, who he gets a weird "I like you, please like me too, but not entirely" vibe from. He shows Nick around his mansion, and Nick notices two women sitting on a couch in the main room, one of like 6. He recognizes the older of them as his cousin Daisy, and the other one, Miss Jordan Baker, was a complete stranger to him. Daisy and Nick catch up, and she tells him about her and Tom's 2-year-olds. Tom asks who Nick's business partners are, and then says he's never heard of them, which gets Nick tight. And then Daisy and Miss Baker start going on about the longest day in the year, whatever that's supposed to be, while Tom talks about how everyone who isn't white supposedly has to contribute to society. By the way, Tom also has a side chick in New York, just like most rich guys in America. We'll get to her later though. When it's just Nick and Daisy at the dinner table, she tells him how life has been pretty rough for her since her marriage to Tom. When Jordan and Tom come back, Daisy discusses how she's going to try and play matchmaker with Nick and Jordan, even though Nick was supposedly engaged but also not engaged to some girl out west. Nick drives home and spots his neighbor, Mr. Gatsby, who Nick decides to call out to but actually doesn't. He notices Gatsby is staring at a green light coming from across the water, and then he vanished, leaving Nick alone in the not-so-quiet night. Nick and Tom take a train to what is literally called the Valley of Ashes. Yup, so Nick can meet Tom's side chick, Myrtle Wilson, and her husband George Wilson, who doesn't know she's Tom's side chick. When they get there, George asks Tom about selling him his fancy blue car, which he doesn't shut up about for the entire book, and Myrtle makes an excuse to meet her sister out in the city. What she really does is join Nick and Tom on a train to the city, where Tom buys her a doggo neither of them really care about because that's how rich people like to flex their money. They go to party with other rich folks at an apartment, which comes to an abrupt end when Tom hits Myrtle for saying Daisy's name, and breaks her nose. Youch. Nick gets invited to one of his neighbor Gatsby's small parties, where he runs into Jordan Baker, and together they try to find Gatsby, seeing as barely anyone at his parties has ever met him. Nick starts talking with this guy at the bar and learns that he's Gatsby, and also that they served in the same division during the war. That was easy. Nick continues to attend Gatsby's parties and keeps tabs on who shows up and how often. Later in the summer, Gatsby and Nick drive out to the city to have lunch, where Nick meets Gatsby's business partner, Wolfsheim. When Wolfsheim leaves, Nick spots Tom at the restaurant, who he introduces Gatsby to before he does another one of his disappearing acts. When he meets up with Jordan, Nick learns that Gatsby hooked up with his cousin Daisy once before having to go fight in the war. But Daisy married Tom while the war was still going on because of his wealth and status. Gold digger. She also tells him that Gatsby is hoping he could arrange a meeting between him and Daisy so they can reconnect, which Nick is down to do, except for the fact that Daisy can't know he's doing it. When Nick gets home that night, he runs into Gatsby and they discuss plans for when to have Daisy over for tea. Gatsby also offers Nick a job that pays a ton of money, which didn't interest him at all. Yeah, those of you watching at home, money isn't everything, which Gatsby trying to win back Daisy with his newfound wealth demonstrates. Sure, Daisy cries over Gatsby's beautiful as shirts at the end of chapter 5, but that's no way to win a girl over. Anyway, back to the main story. When Daisy shows up for tea, Gatsby was already in the house, but David Copperfielded his way back to the front door to pretend like he was just arriving. Oh, Gatsby, you sly dog. Gatsby nearly breaks a clock, and then invites Nick and Daisy over to his place for a tour, which is where she cries over Gatsby's shirts. At the start of chapter 6, a reporter pulls up to Gatsby's house. Boys, this part filled with juicy secrets about his past. We learn that Gatsby's real name isn't really Gatsby. It's Gats. And also that he used to be really poor. Nick comes to Gatsby's house one day to find Tom and two of his friends talking with Gatsby, who he invites to stay for dinner. They refuse and then invite Gatsby to dinner some other time, which he accepts but doesn't realize they're doing just to be nice. Gatsby lets Tom know he's met Daisy, and so he joins her at Gatsby's next party, where no matter how hard he tries, no one seems to have a good time. Gatsby fires all of his servants because they were spreading rumors about him, and then calls to invite Nick to lunch at Daisy and Tom's place, where Daisy and Tom make out while Tom is on the phone with George. This makes it obvious to Tom they're having an affair, by the way. Nick decides to head out to the city because it's mad hot out, even though Tom isn't really on board with it, and Tom and Gatsby drive each other's cars to get there. Tom, Nick, and Jordan stop for gas to find George looking and feeling like all kinds of nasty, and he informs Tom that he found out Myrtle has been having an affair. Sound familiar? At the Plaza Hotel, Tom calls Gatsby out for trying to hook up with his wife, to which Gatsby tells Tom that Daisy never loved him. The two men make Daisy choose who she wants to be with, but she can't make up her mind. George fights with Myrtle over the whole affair thing, and eventually she gets all like, "F this," and storms out of their garage, and then spots Tom in Gatsby's car. But it wasn't Tom in Gatsby's car, it was really Gatsby in Gatsby's car, with Daisy behind the wheel. Daisy hits and kills Myrtle with the car, jumps straight into panic mode, causing Gatsby to have to take over driving, and they don't stop to see if she's okay. Assholes. George leaves the garage to find out who killed Myrtle with their car. Nick stops to chat with Gatsby at 4 in the morning because he's just coming back from camping outside Tom and Daisy's house in case Tom put Daisy in any danger that night. Stalker. And Gatsby tells Nick how he met Daisy. After hours of walking from town to town and creeping a bunch of people out, George makes his way to Gatsby's house after learning it was his car that killed Myrtle from Tom. After Nick is long gone, George finally gets to Gatsby's house to find him chilling in his pool and shoots him. George then shoots himself as well, having avenged Myrtle, but not really. The next day and the days following Gatsby's death, Nick is stuck as the only one planning his funeral because all of his friends have disappeared. So did Tom and Daisy, who completely abandoned their house and left no forwarding address. A week or so later, Gatsby's father sends a telegram asking for the funeral to be postponed until he arrives. Despite all the crap newspapers and reporters were giving Gatsby, his father, Mr. Gatz, spoke of him so highly, saying how his son knew he had a great future ahead of him and how he would have helped build up the country. The only people who end up attending the funeral are Nick, Mr. Gatz, a couple servants, and the guy who Nick met earlier in the book and referred to as allies. A few months later, Nick ran into Tom, who tells Nick that he told George that Gatsby killed Myrtle. We also learn that Tom was sad about Myrtle's death, but only because he had to give up his apartment in the city. Asshole. Nick leaves the conversation feeling as though he had been talking to a child, and on his last night in Westlake before moving back out west, he visits Gatsby's house and stares off at the green light across the water. And that, my friends, is a great Gatsby in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, because this literally took me like a week to make. And also, share the video with anyone who you know is reading the book and would find this funny. Alright, I'll catch you for the next one. Peace out.